Friday night again, and of course you know what that means. Another edition of Beyond Reason Radio here on News Radio 102.5 WFLAM, my website, beyondreasonradio.com. So, when I did a little promo video earlier, I told some people that tonight might be a night of I told you so's. I told you so's. Now, well, in the control room with me today, producer Tom Benson, of course. How you doing, Tom?
You told me so. That sounds like my mother.
Yeah, it sounds like my mom, too. Yeah. But, yeah, do you remember, Tom, a couple weeks ago, Hillary Clinton had just got into the race, the presidential race.
Yes.
And she and I came on the air boldly, I might add, and said, not only is she beatable, but I think she will be beaten, at least in the general election.
Wow. Yeah, I do remember.
And do you remember what some of the callers said to me?
You're crazy.
Yeah. Not only that, but on social media, some people thought I was nuts.
Yeah.
How are things going with Hillary Clinton this week? How are things going with her?
Not very well.
No. What do you mean? What's happening? I don't
well,
understand.
when you get a liberal rag like the New York Times hammering these
Exactly.
issues constantly, that gives credibility to the allegations, I think.
Right, and I'm hearing more and more people saying, well, you said somebody on the 5 said that she might actually drop out. I've heard Rush say that there are Democrats who want her to drop out and don't count out O'Malley and Elizabeth Warren and others.
Sure. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so I told you so. I hate to be one of those people. I don't want to do that all the time, but I told you so. I think she is beatable, and this is the kind of stuff that I saw would happen, but honestly, I think what's ultimately going to do her in is her image. Now, this stuff doesn't help her image. It makes her, it sort of solidifies her image, that she is not likable, that she is not trustworthy, that she is, well, a witch. Maybe just without the W. I don't know.
Well, she has a new image counselor. And
that she hired from, I think, Michelle Obama's old image counselor.
What I don't understand, though, is why do they have her wearing such frumpy clothes?
Yeah, I noticed that too. I just saw it on Fox just a second ago. It is really frumpy.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
There's not stylish at all.
Maybe it's because she's trying to be one of the people.
Oh, okay.
One of the average citizen.
So the average citizen is frumpy.
I not in my world, but I guess that's how she looks at him. I don't know. I don't want to talk too much on Hillary Clinton because I mean, who wants to? Who wants that to be the focus of their Friday night?
She'll be the piñata for a long time to come.
Yeah, that's true. We have like a whole another year of this. By the way, another I told you so coming. I'm going to get into Rubio later in the show. I told everyone that he is the front runner and that he is going to be very hard to beat. Well, guess who's leading in all the polls?
Yes.
Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
Okay. Enough of that.
It's tight, but again, it's early.
Well, yes, it is definitely early. But remember, before he got in the race, he was like nowhere. He was like 2%, 3%. And he got in and he had great speeches and he rose to the top. He's beating Jeb Bush in Florida right now. I'm not saying he's going to win because it's early. I'm just saying he's going to be tough to beat. And I'm just saying he has a lot going for them. I'm not even saying I would vote for him. In fact, as of right now, I would not vote for him in the primary. I would definitely vote Ted Cruz or Rand Paul over him. But I'm just saying, just from an objective perspective that I try to do sometimes here, he is going to be tough to beat, just from an image and all other standpoint. By the way, this is host Michael Yaffee. I'm sure most of you know me, but I also produce Bud Henninger Live mornings on this station, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. I want you to go to my website, beyondreasonradio.com. I'm pretty sure you can remember that. It's not hard to remember, beyondreasonradio.com. Once you go there, you can find all my links to all my social media. I'm on Twitter. I am on Facebook. And the podcast is everywhere. The podcast is on iTunes. It's on TuneIn, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, all that stuff. It's everywhere. So if you miss some parts of the show, you can listen to the podcast of the show as well.
And it's free.
Oh, yes. It's all free.
For now, at least.
For now. Well, I'm a big believer in podcasts and stuff like that just being free. Sure. I'm surprised that some people charge. I just want to make it free. I just want to get Just get the word out there.
Yeah.
There's other ways to make money. I'll beg for it on the streets maybe, or I don't know, work at Chipotle and serve Hillary Clinton.
Sell pencils on a corner.
Sell pencils. Number 2 pencils. Number 2 pencils. Get your number 2 pen. All right. So yesterday, I'm sure you all know what yesterday was. You were all excited to celebrate yesterday. April 22nd, it was. Well, I guess it wasn't yesterday. It was Wednesday, wasn't it? Yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday, April 22nd, was Earth Day. Oh, I'm sure you were all excited to celebrate Earth Day. By the way, how did you celebrate Earth Day? 407-674-1025. Tell me, how did you celebrate Earth Day? Did you unplug your cell phones? Did you plant a tree? And the main reason I wanted to get into to Earth Day is because every time Earth Day and Earth Week comes around, we have to hear about the dangers of climate change or global warming. I've just noticed I'm starting to fall for the liberal narrative because now I'm calling it climate change. It used to be global warming, and now everyone's calling it climate change because there's been record cold in the country, and they're trying to say, well, cold means global warming too or something. I don't know. So they're calling it climate change. I don't want to get too much into the science of climate change this week, but I want to ask the question. Let's pretend climate change is real. Let's pretend global warming is real. Let's pretend we're all going to die in some kind of giant fire that engulfs the planet. Is there anything we can really do about it? And is there anything we really are doing about it? Is this a serious problem? Or is this, what I believe it is, about politics? By the way, it was interesting. I was listening to the radio, and there was a Fox News update, and they were talking about how Obama was touting the dangers of climate change in the Everglades. And then in the cut right after that, they talked about the volcano in Chile. Huge volcano, spewing how many thousands of pounds of ashes into the atmosphere? Sulfur, greenhouse gases. Think about just what the natural order of things does. So I'm supposed to believe that man's destroying the planet, but things like that volcano, which we can obviously see with our own eyes having a deep effect, that doesn't affect the climate at all. No. That's all man's fault. When I look at the climate and I look at the world, I see something that is way too complex for us to be able to predict in the way that they're trying to predict it. Way too complex. Not only that, but they're saying like volcanoes, because there's been a few big volcanoes in the past few years. They're saying that it might actually contribute to global cooling because of the sulfuric acid and stuff. So it has greenhouse gases, mostly water vapor, but it also contributes to global cooling. So couldn't that offset some of the global warming that's happening? My point is it's way too complex for us to be able to understand. It's one thing to have a scientific theory, but this isn't scientific theory. It might have started that way in the early 80s, but it's become a political thing. It's all about politics and money. And I'm going to have some quotes in a second that proves me right. That goes back to the 80s when people were talking about climate change. In the 70s when people were talking about climate change. Yeah, they were talking about it that long ago. Saying the same things that if we didn't do it by, back then it was probably the 1990s, if we didn't talk about climate change, if we don't address climate change by the 1990s, we're all going to die. And of course, now we're in the 2010s and we're still here and it seems to be okay. But first, President Obama was in the Everglades a couple days ago on Earth Day, and he was talking about, people like me, how we're just denying it, and there's just no time.
Folks don't have time. We don't have time. You do not have time to deny the effects of climate change. The next generation, they're way ahead of us in understanding how important this is. Let's make sure we don't disappoint.
Yes, I am way ahead of you.
Let's stand up and do what's right before it's too late.
So what is it we are supposed to do, Mr. President? What is it we are supposed to do? I'm going to get into in the next segment. I'm going to get in some quotes here that are going to open your eyes to some things I found. But I'm going to get into the next segment as well. what the so-called solutions are, and how even the solutions would have a minimal effect on the planet. And how it's curious to me that the solutions often attack what makes this country great and successful and powerful. Seems very convenient that the things they want us to cut back on are the very things that made us the greatest nation on earth. Just seems very convenient to me. I don't know. 407-674-1025. But first, this is an example of how I believe this is all about politics. Just listen to what some leaders in this movement have said in the past. And it goes back to the 1980s. It's amazing how my whole life I've been hearing about this. And the temperature hasn't really risen that much. They say 1.5 degrees in the last century. A lot less in my lifetime. And actually, when I was a kid, it used to be the ozone layer was disappearing. You remember that, Tom Benson, when everyone said the ozone layer was disappearing? You don't hear that anymore. Why not? We fixed it, I guess, huh? It's just fixed. Wow, that was easy. But some quotes from some world leaders that talk about what this is. Here's a remark from Maurice Strong, who organized the first UN Earth Climate Summit in 1992 in Brazil. She said, "We may get to the point where the only way of saving the world will be for industrialized civilization to collapse." An exact attack on, well, the most powerful countries in the world. Former U.S. Senator Timothy Worth, then representing the Clinton Gore administration as U.S. Undersecretary of State for Global Issues, he was at the summit. He said, "We have got to get rid of the global warming issue. Even if the theory of global warming is wrong, we will be doing the right things in terms of economic policy and environmental policy." It's all it's all about politics and changing our economics and changing the way our economic policy works. That's what it's about.
So he said if we're wrong,
yes,
we're still right.
Exactly. Yeah, isn't that convenient?
Yeah.
That's very convenient. Okay. Going on. In 1988, I was 2 years old, by the way. So I would think that they all suspected we would be dead in some kind of fiery flood. In 1998, former Canadian Minister of the Environment told editors and reporters of the Calgary Herald, "No matter if the science of global warming is all phony, climate change provides the greatest opportunity to bring about justice and equality in the world." Huh. It's convenient. It seems like he has some other objectives here. Oh, yes. And then we had, where did it go? Oh, yes. In 1996, former Soviet Union President Mikhail Gorbachev. I see him, the reporters love him. I see him at conferences where he's talking about how to be a great leader. Didn't he fail? Wasn't he the one who brought about this collapse of the Soviet Union? That wasn't his goal, by the way. He didn't want to collapse the Soviet Union, so I don't know why everyone goes to him. And he created some kind of climate green organization out there in 1993, right after the Soviet Union collapsed. That was very convenient. He said, "The threat of environmental crisis will be the international disaster key to unlock the new world order." More about politics. It's all about politics. I'm telling you, I might not be a scientist. I might not be a mathematician. But I'm a pretty good observer of politics and the media, and I can tell you, that's what all this is about. It's about the money, the media getting money off of it, politicians getting money off of it, but politicians using this. It's a perfect thing to use to change economic and political policy in the world. 407-674-1025. I'm going to talk about what are so-called some of the solutions are, which wouldn't even do anything. 407-674-1025. You're listening to Beyond Reason Radio with Michael Yaffee, News Radio 1025 WFLA, and BeyondReasonRadio.com. So how did you celebrate Earth Day? Did you plant a tree? By the way, that's one of the solutions I'm going to get into. We just have to stop cutting trees down. Now, which is very interesting because in some states like California, they don't want you to use plastic bags. Well, if you're not using plastic bags, aren't you going to use paper bags? So wouldn't we have to cut more trees down to get paper bags instead of plastic bags? Oh, no. Of course not. Then we have to use the cloth bags, the ones that you buy and you take to the store with you, which I did a segment not too long ago about how those bags actually help spread disease. And some people have actually died from it. So that's a great solution. So 407-674-1025. I'm going to get into what some of the so-called solutions are to stop the devastation. Of course, none of them have to do with the sun. Maybe the sun might have something to do with the climate. I don't know. I'm just saying. First, I want to get to a call here. Spencer in Orlando. Welcome to Beyond Reason Radio. How's it going, my friend?
Yeah, it's going all right. I love you on Bud Hedinger, so glad you have a chance to have your interview.
Thanks. Yeah. I produce Bud Hedinger live. Anyone doesn't know, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., and I'm glad you got to listen to this.
Yeah, so I was just calling because I love Earth Day. It's my favorite non-major holiday.
Oh, it is.
And what I did this Earth Day was read Contract with the Earth by Newt Gingrich. And as you know, he orchestrated Contract with America during the Clinton administration.
Yes.
He wrote a book about Contract with the Earth, which are conservative policy solutions to remedying our impact on the Earth and natural habitats. And he just, I think it was a 10-point solution, but he, brought conservative policy principles to our impact on the Earth. And if anyone wants to read it, you should pick it up. It exists somewhere.
What were some of his solutions?
That was a great question. I don't quite remember, but I can give you a few. Is ecotourism. He was a big fan of ecotourism, so to continue promoting that. And, although that is an impact on these environmental areas, it does bring awareness.
Okay. So he would be probably a big proponent of SeaWorld, too, but no, SeaWorld's evil. We have to get rid of them. I forgot.
Well, yeah, according to Blackfish, I guess, but no, I love
It's
SeaWorld.
Not a fish. Sorry. It's not your fault. I just get so mad. I know. I just get so mad when I hear the title of that movie because it's not a fish. Yeah, it should be called Black Mammal. All right, Spencer, it's good to know. I'll look into that book.
Yeah, I do have two things about these geoengineering solutions that I've heard of.
What's that?
One, you spew sulfur dioxide vapor in the air. It'll reflect the sun's rays back and it'll cool us again.
So more
volcanoes.
volcanoes.
There's a temperature gradient in the ocean, so if you can suck the cold water at the bottom of the ocean up, it'll cool the Earth. All these are just going to lead to adverse consequences.
Exactly.
I agree that we need to change the symptoms of climate change. For example, rising sea levels, decreased habitats, clean air. We love all of those things, but to encompass it in a politically motivated sense of what we're turning climate change into is kind of a challenge. But I agree that those symptoms do need to change, and we should address those and, spend our money that way. But
but it sounds like you kind of agree with me, too, that it's more about politics than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. We always have a changing climate. We battle the climate all the time, tsunamis.
Oh, yeah. You just read the Bible.
Right.
They had famines and floods back then.
Yeah, so we should still fix the symptoms of it,
Oh, yeah, well, definitely.
More seawalls, et cetera. But to try to just change it up or think we can change human progress, it's a bit much. It is politically motivated. That's the annoying part, and unfortunately the conversation is just going the wrong direction. Because I would love to, breathe clean air that isn't covered in sulfur dioxide, but...
Right. All right. Thank you, Spencer, for your call. I thank you for listening and being a fan, by the way. He brought a good point about how they're trying to fight against human progress. That's exactly what they do. All their solutions are fighting against human progress. Think about, I had something from the Scientific American here. 10 solutions for climate change. And of course, the first thing I want to mention is they had another article where they said in order to stop climate change and the problems of climate change, we would have to cut emissions by 90% by 2050. 90% by the year 2050 in order to have any type of effect to stop climate change. Does anyone see that happening? It's impossible without totally destroying our economy. See, it's convenient. Once again, political, economic policy. It would be completely impossible to do that. But they always attack the things that made us a great country. For one of their solutions on the Scientific American, forego fossil fuels. Okay, that's what made this country prosperous. That's what made this country powerful. That's what made us a good country. Get rid of that. Next thing, infrastructure upgrade. I hear every Democrat on the planet talk about how we need to upgrade the infrastructure. Then they spend trillions of dollars on other things instead of infrastructure upgrade. Move closer to work. You willing to do that, Tom Benson? You're going to move closer to work?
I'm close enough now.
Yeah, right? So we should all ride bicycles and live right next to work, and that'll solve the problem of climate change. Now, of course, I don't know how you're going to stop exhaling. You'll probably exhale more, breathing harder when you're riding your bike. You have to stop that too. That's a greenhouse gas. But see, they're attacking the automobile. The automobile is one of Americans' great. We didn't invent it, but we made it so that everybody, normal people, could get an automobile affordably. And it's one thing that made this country great. We made a highway system and we could travel and helped our economy. And of course, no, we have to get rid of that. See, another thing that made this country great. Here's another one. Consume less. Stop buying stuff. How dare you, evil Americans? Stop buying stuff. That won't hurt the economy at all. No. We just need to have less stuff. We have too much stuff in America, and we're destroying the planet because we're buying too much stuff. Give me a break. Be efficient. Well, that's kind of vague, but be efficient. Oh, here's another one. Go vegetarian. This is the next big lefty movement in this country, I've noticed, is going vegetarian. Are we really going to do that? You know, our farmlands, our meat industry is great in this country. And now we're attacking that as well. Going vegetarian. By the way, I don't see any of these big world leaders that talk about the dangers of climate change going vegetarian. In fact, I'm pretty sure Obama's in the opposite of that. Their whole family usually has fancy lobster dinners and all that stuff. So I don't see them doing that. Stop cutting down trees. We'll just stop cutting down trees. Unplug. That's another one. Believe it or not, you, a citizen, spend more time on electricity to power devices when off than when on. So when you have your TV, unplug your TV when you're done, because that little red light that's killing the planet. When you see that little red light on your TV, you're destroying the planet.
Of course, they mean that's the masses should do that. The elite can continue to use their devices.
Oh, well, they can't be inconvenienced with that. They can't be inconvenienced with that. By the way, I'm wondering if Bob's going to make this point, actually. Yeah, Bob, I have an interesting comment dealing with Obama going to the Everglades. I wonder if any of you caught the irony of him going to the Everglades. But Bob in Orlando, you had a comment on that. What's your comment?
I'm Bob from Longwood.
Oh, Longwood. I'm sorry, Bob. I knew that.
Yeah, that's fine, Mike.
I knew it says right here, Longwood, and I know who you are, and I don't know why I said that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Obama went down the Everglades, and he was saying that the Everglades is going to get flooded, And,
oh, yes. It's being destroyed. Yes.
Bad. I just want to know, about 7 or 8 months ago, why didn't he go to over the Mexico border over there when all them kids were coming across that he was letting into this country that had a lot of sicknesses and everything like that? Why didn't he care about worrying about the border?
Oh, because they're not destroying the planet. You didn't know?
But I'll tell you one thing. They're damaging the American life.
Oh, well, you're assuming that Obama cares about the American life.
Yeah, who cares about it? He doesn't, that's for sure.
He doesn't care about the economy. He's trying to, that's what all this is about with global warming, trying to bring America's economy down to size. It's too big. We're too powerful. Have to bring it down to size. No, I thought he was going to bring this up, but he didn't. It's interesting. How did Obama get to the Everglades? He couldn't have just talked about it at his White House. No, he decided to take a very large jumbo jet, Air Force One, and fly there. All the carbon emissions on the way being spewed in the atmosphere. He didn't bother to think about that. He could have saved a lot.
Expensive photo op, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And by the way, when he was speaking in front of the Everglades looked fine to me. I don't know. I was talking to one of our interns this week, Mike, and he lives down there. And I'm like, so when you drive by the Everglades, does it look like it's disappearing? It's being destroyed. The planet's destroyed. He's like, no, there's way too much of it. It's scary. So I don't know. The pythons seem to like the climate down there, and they seem to be doing well. yeah, it's just my biggest problem with climate change is it's very convenient one because everything proves it. You know, I have some stats here about hurricanes have gone down in the past 10, 15, 20 years. Droughts have actually gone down in the world. Flooding is not as bad as they say it is. Wildfires have actually gone down in the U.S., in the world, for the past 15, 20 years. So all these things that make you think, oh, it's getting worse, it's not. But they'll just say that causes global warming. Less wildfires is global warming. More wildfires, well, that's global warming. Less hurricanes, well, that's global warming. More hurricanes, well, that's global warming. Extreme cold, no, that's global warming. Extreme hot, no, that's global warming. Neither extremes, well, that's global warming. It'd be easier if you just tell me what's not global warming, because everything proves it. And the second thing is a point, it's all about politics. It is the perfect thing, an invisible gas, something that's going to happen in the future, maybe, that we're not seeing the effects in our daily lives, and they're using that to attack what made this country great and powerful and prosperous. They're using that to attack it. That's what it's all about. It's all about politics. Coming up in the next segment, I want to get into some presidential politics. Randy, I know you're on the phone. I know you've been holding a while. I'm going to get to your call, and I want to get to Rubio because, well, it's an I told you so moment, and this is an I told you so beyond reason. You're listening to Beyond Reason Radio, News Radio 102.5, BeyondReasonRadio.com. So Hillary Clinton's having a good week, huh? Oh, I'm sure she's just doing swell. Just doing very well. She's going to win. No issue there. It's all hers. It's all hers for the taking. Nobody cares about all that stuff. There probably are too many people that don't care, actually, with many uninformed, non-informed voters out there. But, I said, how could I say that she's beatable? I mean, so what? She, made deals with uranium companies and where they gave her money and she could get them to sell more uranium to a country. No, nobody cares about that or anything. So what that there's a whole book coming out of all of her cash donation problems? No. She's going to win. How could I say she's beatable? I don't know. I don't understand how that. What was I thinking? What I was thinking, it's beyond reason. And this is Beyond Reason Radio. First, Randy has a call. Randy from Orlando. How are you doing, Randy?
Doing fine, Michael. Michael, I was listening this morning and commented on Bud's show, and I learned that you were going to be on tonight. I'm glad you are, because when my comment concerning Hillary and her Republican opponent is based on this, I've been to two Republican national conventions, one with Ronald Reagan down in Houston.
Oh, really? Wow.
Hillary is going to lose big time to someone like a Ted Cruz.
Really?
I was at the Harvard Kennedy School of Politics in 2008 with some of the guys that ran the Blue State website, and this is going to run down August, September of next year to debates, and the most fierce debater of any of the Republicans is Ted Cruz.
I've heard that he's a really, really good debater. He's pretty good. I mean, he's a pretty good speaker all around. I don't count out Ted Cruz, by the way. I think he's sort of an underdog that could still do really well in the long run.
I agree with you. Alan Dershowitz, who I had the privilege of seeing debate with Scalia at one of the Harvard Law School debates, says that Cruz is one of the most intellectual and fiercest debaters that he's ever seen run through there.
Oh, it'll be fun to watch.
When Hillary comes down to issues such as, let's just pick one, like global warming or climate change or whatever you want to do it, she does not have the background nor the knowledge nor the ability to articulate.
I thought she was the smart. I thought she was the smartest woman on the planet. I mean, everyone tells me that she's just so smart and intellectual and been around the world.
She is if you're a woman. And
What?
I don't mean that in any sexist way.
Okay, go ahead then to tell me what you mean by that, because you might have just made a lot of our woman callers mad out there.
Well, here's the thing. She's got a cadre of people that she's cultivated over the last 40 years who will fawn all over anything that she says.
Oh, I see. It's not because of anything it's not her substance, just because she's a woman, is what you're saying.
No. It's not because she's a woman, but if you look at all of her handlers, so to speak, they will never give her a no answer to anything she says. And a good debater, a good negotiator, has got to know both sides of the coin. And I've been with one of the largest oil companies in the world. I've sold metallurgical coal around the world, and I've also been in politics for about 40 years. And when you're negotiating or describing something in a debate, like a high school debate, you've got to be able to debate both sides of the coin.
All right, Randy. I thank you so much for the call. It's taking us a little off topic there at the end, but I get what your point is, that Ted Cruz is basically going to wipe the floor with Hillary. The problem is Ted Cruz has to win the primary to be able to do that. I think Ted Cruz has a chance, don't get me wrong. His campaign commercials are actually very good that I've seen. He's a good speaker. He is sort of a grassroots following. But I said, another I told you so, I said on the show last week, I think, and a couple weeks ago as well, that really the one to beat is Marco Rubio. And I'm not saying that because I'm a huge fan of his or anything. Personally, I don't like his tax plan. I still don't trust him on immigration. There's some other stuff. He's not very strong in getting rid of the NSA spying. So, but he's tough to beat because his whole image is great. He's the best speaker out of all of them. He talks about the new American century. You know, like I said, he might as well just say hope and change. It's what worked for Obama. Well. A lot of people probably discounted me, but Quinnipiac has a new poll. They find that among all the candidates, if Rubio went against Hillary Clinton, he would only lose by 2 points. Now, a lot of that has to do with name recognition in Hillary Clinton. So maybe some of you are right that Hillary would win, because there's that poll. But here's where the polls get interesting. Rubio is followed by former Governor Jeb Bush. Rubio is getting 13%. Hold on. No, Rubio is getting 15% of the Republican primary voters. Jeb Bush is getting 13%. Rubio is already beating Jeb Bush. And he's, like I said before, he's beating him in Florida. Scott Walker's getting 11%, Cruz is getting 9%, and Rand Paul gets 8%. Now, it's early, but I'm just saying that just like a couple weeks ago, Rubio was at the bottom of a lot of these polls. And he comes out with his great speech, and more people are getting to know him. More and more people are learning his message. And he's very hard to beat. I think there is a very good chance he could win. He's young, articulate, all that stuff. Of course, Clinton has dominated the presidential field, the Democratic field, but there's nobody running against her yet. That could change drastically when someone decides that they want to run against her. So, I mean, just kind of an interesting tidbit there, that kind of another I told you so, that I think Rubio could do very well. I think Rubio could do very well. By the way, speaking, another little politics aside, I found a story that I thought was interesting, and it kind of reminded me of you, Tom Benson, because you and I have talked about this before. With all the problems with Obama and Israel, all the problems with our country and Israel, how in the world could Jewish American voters
Still vote for Democratic?
Still vote Democratic?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that actually could be changing. I mean, I never thought, when you said that, I was like, oh, I don't know if it'll happen. Check out this poll. 54% of American Jews still support Obama. That's still a majority. But get this. That number has decreased from 77% in 2009. It went from 77% in 2009 to 65% in 2013. And just in the last 2 years, it's gone from 65% to 54%. That's a pretty stunning number. That's a good sign that maybe the Jewish voters in this country are waking up to what the Democratic Party is doing to them and doing to Israel. I mean, Jews are under attack all over this world. And President Obama doesn't even acknowledge it, doesn't plan on doing anything about it. And I haven't heard anybody else in the Democrat Party wanting to do anything about it. So another political poll that I just had to throw in there because it's kind of a sign of hope. I try to bring some hope here, Tom Benson. I try to bring some hope to the world. And when I see a poll like that, everyone says we need to get the Hispanic vote. If we get the Hispanic vote, then the Republicans will have it. That's what the vote we have to focus on. Well, that's true. We need to get some Hispanic votes. But just think if we got 20% of the Jewish vote, like this poll suggests we might be able to. Just think if we got 10 to 20% of the African American vote. Because I'm not sure that they're going to stay voting 95, 98% Democrat after Obama. There's a lot of other groups that the GOP and that conservatives could focus on to really get a broad coalition and win elections. So don't get disheartened out there. Don't think it's all over for conservatives. There's some sign of hope. All right, I started out the show talking about climate change because Earth Day is this week. And speaking of the environment, I remember a couple years ago when the Deepwater Horizon oil tanker in the Gulf exploded, unfortunately killing 11 people. But the big news was about how it's going to destroy the Gulf forever. We need an oil moratorium. We need to stop drilling everywhere, stop drilling in the Gulf. It's going to reach Tampa. It's going to reach Europe, the oil. It's going to destroy everything. Just like the global warming people are saying is going to happen to the whole planet with global warming. Well, the facts are in, and that is not what's happening. Very opposite. And by the way, of course, I wasn't on the air back then, but I remember telling a lot of my friends this, a lot of my college friends and other people this. I told you. This is another I told you so. Lots of I told you so. I remember telling them it's being greatly exaggerated. It's not going to destroy the planet. There are natural things that fight against oil, in the ocean already that fight against it, that eat up the bad things in oil, and that the planet will take care of itself in a lot of respects, and that's what's happening. So we'll get to that. You're listening to Beyond Reason Radio, News Radio 102.5 WFLA, BeyondReasonRadio.com. Welcome back to Beyond Reason Radio here on News Radio 102.5 WFLA and BeyondReasonRadio.com. Of course, make sure to like Beyond Reason Radio on Facebook. Go to Facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio and follow me on Twitter at Michael Yaffee, and go to my website, BeyondReasonRadio.com, and just a bunch of different ways to connect with the show and everything else. By the way, this has nothing to do with what we were talking about, but everywhere, on every website I'm seeing, they're making a big deal. And I don't know why. I don't know why everyone cares. I'm going to ask you, Tom Benson, if you care. About Ben Affleck apparently told PBS to hide his slave owner ancestry. Have you heard that story at all?
I've seen it, sure. And
it's everywhere.
I don't understand what the big deal is.
I don't either. I'm like, why is this such big news? Why do I care?
Yeah, the guy was embarrassed. So what,
Yeah, they're trying to make it a huge scandal, and I'm like, for one, he's an actor, okay. Two, it's his ancestry from forever ago, okay.
As if he had any thing to do with it.
I know, yeah. But I just don't get what the big deal is. So if anyone can tell me what the big deal is with that, because I've literally, because I scour the internet for news and everything to stay up to date for Bud Show and this show. And almost every website I go on talks about it and about an update about what he said. And I guess the ancestor's name was Ben. And so that's a big deal. And I'm like, okay, I don't care. Can we talk about something more interesting? I don't know. Every now and then I just find a story online or something that just gets everywhere. And my brain can't understand why. My brain can't understand what's the big deal. My brain can't comprehend it. So then I ran about it on this show, of course. 407-674-1025, by the way, if you want to comment on anything we're talking about. So 5 years ago, there was 5 years ago this week, we all remember the tragedy of the BP's Deepwater Horizon oil rig 40 miles from the Gulf that blew up, claimed the lives of 11 people, and 3 million barrels of oil that went into the Gulf. And I remember everyone panicking about this. And yes, it did cause some ecological damage. Yes, I'm glad we did some things to clean it up or whatever. But I remember people I knew, friends I knew that were like, I'm not going to BP anymore. I'm not going to get my gas from BP because they're destroying the Gulf and the planet. And for one, I'm like, give me a break. For one, it was an accident. It's not like they did it on purpose. It can happen. And two, we can't just panic every time something like this happens. Can you imagine how human progress would have stopped in our history if we just panicked and stopped everything when an accident happened?
Plus, you want BP to pay millions and billions of dollars to clean it up. So stop buying their gasoline so they don't have any money.
That's a good point, yeah, because they won't have any money and then they can't clean it up. And they did spend millions of dollars to clean it up. I didn't even think about that angle. That's actually a really good point. But, I mean, just imagine, remember Apollo 1 on a test. It was a test run. It wasn't even a flight. It blew up and it killed the astronauts. Just imagine if we all panicked like that. A moratorium on going in space. That's what we would do today. A moratorium on going in space because those astronauts died. Progress, that happens. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying I liked it. But I just remember all the things about how it's really bad. It's going to destroy the Gulf for decades. The oil's going to reach Tampa and eventually reach Europe. And those things never happened. They never happened. And by the way, as of today, right now, this is the 5th anniversary, it seems like the ecological damage from this spill has not happened. Today, the Gulf region, I found a lot of this info from the National Review, by the way. Today, the Gulf region affected by the spill is enjoying a renaissance of energy production, booming tourism, and a healthy fishery sector. Scientific data and studies over the past 5 years show that the Gulf environment is returning to its baseline conditions. The remnants of the spill are hard to find. A July 2011 environmental assessment report from the Coast Guard found that none of the dispersant constituents found in the thousands of water and sediment tests conducted exceeded the EPA's chronic aquatic benchmarks. 5 years later, wildlife populations have proven largely resilient. For instance, commercial fishery landings data from NOAA show that after a drop-off in the year of the spill, catch levels bounced back in 2011 levels. It's not as big as we thought. The Earth is resilient. The Earth, the planet, can take care of itself. And I'm just reading this, remembering the panic from back then. And remember how long that oil moratorium, the drilling moratorium stopped? If anything, we should be doing more drilling off more Florida coasts if we really want it. I mean, another I told you so moment. It's not just me, everyone. Remember how for years and years and years, conservatives were saying we need to drill more oil, up the supply of oil so it can meet the demand, and that would be the best way to bring energy prices and gas prices down. Democrats said, no, it's the evil oil companies. They're profit hungry, blah, blah, blah. Well, right now, in the past couple of years, we've had an energy boom, not because we've been drilling more off the coast, but because of fracking. So what happened? The supply of oil went up because of our fracking. And what has happened? The prices have gone down. Exactly what people like me behind microphones were saying for years. So let's do more of it. And now we are becoming one of the main exporters of oil and natural gas in the world again, which is good. That's all we wanted. So that's a little bit of an aside, but it was there's a lot of beyond reason I told you so's today. So that was one of them. But I'm reading this, and I'm reading about how the planet is healing there, and I'm reading about how resilient it is. It's just, why can't we have that kind of reason when it comes to the whole global warming thing? That's what I'm thinking. That when I look, and I used to be, when I was in college, I used to believe in global warming and all that stuff and climate change and think it was going to destroy the planet. I was just another college kid. What do I know? But I started doing some research, first off. But I started thinking, the planet, for one, the climate has been changing. If you look at the temperatures of the history of the planet, we're in a cooler period than most of the history of the planet. But it's so complex. There's so many billions and trillions of variables all over the planet. And by the way, most of the planet is still undeveloped. I don't know if you know that. Most of the planet is still way underdeveloped and undeveloped. In fact, most of the United States is undeveloped. But you look at the complexities of the planet, and then we're going to say, and the sun, by the way, and we're going to say that we're going to predict that we're all going to die from global warming. And well, they made that prediction about the Gulf, and they were wrong. I'm going to just take a guess and saying they're wrong about global warming as well. All right, another edition of Beyond Reason Radio is over. Make sure to go to my website, beyondreasonradio.com. Make sure to like me on Facebook, facebook.com/beyondreasonradio. Follow me on Twitter at Michael Yaffee. I will be back with Bud Monday morning at 6 a.m. I will catch you guys then and catch you back here next week. See you guys later. Have a good weekend.
From indifference, I look inside.